everyone, this is Sophie here. Nice to see you again, or if you're new, hi. My name is Sophie. I'm an artist. I'm based in Melbourne. I love colour, I love scribbling, I love playing. Yeah, that'll do. Here's a new piece from me, which was the best time ever. I had such a good time painting this piece. I went into it with the mindset of like play and being silly and just seeing what happens. You can see that I've used a board that has already been painted. I actually used this little board, it's a clay board, as a palette for the last couple of paintings that I did. I was like, look, it's already covered in paint. It's got like really weird texture all over it. So I'm just going to paint on top of it and see what happens and just play with it. If it turns out really yucky, then I'll just paint over it again and it'll be fine. So starting off this piece, I was already in the mindset of play and making marks and just enjoying the process, enjoying the meditation of painting and making art. And I guess while I was making it, I was sort of thinking about how healing it can be to make art this way, to remove all pressure from making something perfect and beautiful and smooth. You know, I wanted to embrace the texture and embrace the weird colors, embrace the brush marks. I really have just been craving the loosening up part of it, and how healing and good for me that looseness has been just so good. It really has been very healing and wonderful. So yeah, I've been thinking about how art heals us. One of my best friends, Lucy, is an art therapist, and she's always talking about how amazing art making has been for a lot of her clients and for herself. Making art has just been something that I have always done. I've never really thought of it much as my healing, like how I meditate and that sort of thing. It's just, you know, it's one, my job, and two, my hobby and what I love to do anyway. I read a quote as well. I did a quick Google of like how art heals us, and I saw this cute quote from Picasso. He said, "Art washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life." I thought that was really, really nice. I mean, you know, not the biggest fan of Mr. Picasso, but the sentiment in that quote is really perfect to what I'm trying to talk about today. I mean, looking at art is healing as well, finding solace in looking at art. Yeah, I guess art making helps me to de-stress, mostly. I mean, sometimes making artwork can be quite stressful. You go through phases, don't you? Sometimes there's like the relaxing moments, and then other times you're like, oh no, how am I going to fix this? It's all ruined forever. But in general, it's a really good way to de-stress for me. It helps me to gain like perspective on thoughts and concerns that are floating around in my head. It helps quieten the chatter that I have in my head. I often have like overlapping layers of chatter going on in my head. So it's been, you know, it's my way of quietening that down, like focusing my mind, and that chatter gets placed aside while I'm engaging in another process. I'll put on music, I'll put on a podcast, and I just kind of paint or draw away. Sometimes it's a reaction to the music, sometimes it's a reaction to the podcast. I mean, that can also be a really good little task for someone to do. Put on some music, maybe choose like 4 or 5 songs in different styles, probably something calm, something upbeat, something fast. Play the music and let your hand just like jitter and dance around the page, see what happens. Drop all pressure on yourself to make, you know, something finished and beautiful, and whatever that means. Just see what happens, focus on the music and the feeling, do some automatic art. That's a really fun way to loosen up and to see what happens. And I feel like being playful, being experimental, being loose with your art can give us more confidence, which is healing, because we learn different ways to make marks by making mistakes. I think that's so perfect, so important. Don't worry about the end product. Don't even think too much. Art is sort of like an outlet when words fail. I don't think I'm the most articulate person in the world, but I am in my drawing. I am in my sketchbook. I am in my art. So maybe I am articulate. I don't know. Especially when I'm talking to other people, I feel like words fail me and I just become like a blethering blob. So yeah, art is really perfect for me in that way. It sort of says the words I want to say without saying words at all. Yeah, it's my way of, I guess, making sense of the world, making sense of myself, helping me think through things. Also just to like get my ideas out of my head and onto paper. Makes me understand more about life and myself and yeah, all that kind of thing. Also, going out and experiencing the world to gather inspiration for your work, sitting and looking at little things, like all the tiny little details. Have you ever actually even seen a caterpillar? Just slowing down, checking in. I feel like looking at your phone and scrolling through your phone is checking out and drawing is checking in. Does that make sense? Like it can make you feel present. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Making art and drawing or creating whatever you're making makes you feel present without feeling anxious about the present, instead of scrolling mindlessly on the phone, which I'm really trying so hard not to do so much. This is maybe one of my New Year's goals this year, is to stop the mindless scroll so much. Because, you know, I'm not going to deny it. I do it. Lots of people do it. Everyone does it, you know. That's a big part of childhood that I miss, is just laying on the ground and looking at the clouds and trying to find animals in the clouds, or looking at bark and creating things out of bark and sticks and leaves and stuff. You know, I just want to go back to the play when there's no other options. Being bored, in quotation marks, without being bored. You know what I mean? Just seeing what I have around me and playing with it, making my own little world, my own little games. Just want to live out my little hobbit hermit life. And look at trees and flowers a lot. Create new worlds in my artwork. A lot of people are scared of making art, which I completely understand. A lot of people are afraid of making something because they don't think they can draw. So they're denying themselves of this tool for healing, something to help them relax, impose order into their life, understanding certain things, you know. The terms like good art, bad art, poor art, whatever, I feel like maybe are terms we need to steer away from. Like, oh, this drawing isn't representative of what I've got in my head, so it's bad art. Or my skill level isn't as good as my taste in art is. And that can be really off-putting for a lot of people. So they won't try to fail, they won't try to make mistakes. The word fail maybe isn't the right word, but you know what I mean. I mean, you can make any kind of art, whether you think it's bad or good or whatever, doesn't matter what that label is. Yeah, making art like that, making any kind of art, just putting marks on the paper is just as effective in healing and in meditative qualities and features as making, quote, good art or great art or whatever the heck that means. Yeah, getting into the flow state, finding calm, losing track of time, being in the moment of the mark making, all that kind of stuff. The goodness of the art has nothing to do with what the piece actually looks like. It's purely about playfulness, the silliness, the flow state, all that kind of stuff. That is the healing quality of it. No one has to look at what you're making. You can tuck that away for later if it brings you anxiety to look back at it again. But the process is the healing part, and the process is the most fun part, in my opinion. I've got quite a busy head. I have a lot of chatter in my head, and I've tried everything over the years, including meditation. But I found that making art, drawing, sketchbooking, scribbling, painting, making sculptures is my meditation, and it's much easier for me than meditation actually is. There was actually a point in my life where I didn't make any art for like 3 years or so, and that was early on in my 20s when I was like, being an artist isn't possible, that's not a real job, I can't do that. All my teachers said only 1% of you will be artists and even then it will be a struggle. So I was like, okay, well, I better look at some other options. And I noticed that I didn't draw, I didn't paint, I barely did anything over the few years, and my body was just a ball of vibration of stress and anxiety and all that kind of stuff. One day I just realized that like I need to go back and make art. I need to go back and do something with my hands and my brain. It's something that I loved doing as a child and a teenager, and why aren't I doing it? This is what is wrong with me. I'm not doing the thing. And so I went back to uni and studied animation, and my love for illustrating and creating and building worlds and stories and narratives and playfulness just came shooting back to me, and it just all made sense. Because I'm someone who's not very good at opening up to people around me, to talking very deeply about my emotions a lot of the time, making art really did that for me, and I learned so much about myself when I got back into making stuff. And here I am years later, like 10 years later, and it's my full-time job, and it's something that I'm so passionate about. Like making art, looking at art, talking about art is top 3, top 2, top 1 of my most passionate things. So yeah, art is healing. Art is definitely healing. I mean, I can't deny that at all. The proof is in the pudding, and I am the pudding. So I hope you've enjoyed this little video and my chats, my blethering. I mean, not very planned, just that's my style. I just blether on about what I've been thinking about lately. So yeah, what are your thoughts? Is art healing? And how does art heal you? I'd love to know. This piece also, while I've got you here really quickly, is this month's Patreon reward. You'll get a double-sided postcard. On one side is the artwork, and on the other side is some sketchbook scribbles that helped me get to the final piece idea. And you'll also get a little sticker, matching sticker, which is very cute and fun. So if you are interested in those, you have until the end of January this month to sign up to those in the Orange Bird tier. Link is down below. Greatest of big thank you, love, hearts, sunbeams to my patrons. You heal me as much as art heals me. I just freaking adore your faces so much. If you like this video, have a look at some of my other videos. I love having little art chats with you, and I love also silent art video times, that's good too. Alrighty then, I will see you next time. Bye.